Welcome to the Lawless Astrology channel. My name is Dabney and I am an evolutionary astrologer. Today we're going to be talking about June's astrology, but we are more specifically going to be doing a deep dive into Jupiter moving into Cancer, which is going to be a very juicy, transformational, ripe with possibilities planetary shift. So a lot of the planetary shifts that we've been talking about have been more along the lines of action oriented in kind of a, kind of facing reality sort of way. And this is a little bit of a softer one where we get to actually feel into our hearts. And there is just so much love and possibility for healing with Jupiter in Cancer. So if this is content you're interested in, I hope you stick around. If you are new to this channel, what we do is we look at the planetary energy above and what's happening in the cosmos, and we bring it down here and we discuss it and talk about how we can live a more peace-filled, conscious life down on planet Earth. So let's talk about Jupiter moving into Cancer. Those of you that do watch this channel often know that I'm a Cancer, but what you may not know is that I have 4 planets in Cancer. So I have a stellium. I'm a super Cancer. I have a lot of energy in this planet or this sign. So I know it well. I've studied it inside and out. And when Jupiter moves into Cancer, there is tremendous opportunity for transformation and healing. So, as we all know, we are living in heartbreaking times. Things are not necessarily easy. They're not easy to bear witness to. They're not easy to get through. They're scary times for a lot of people. And a lot of the planetary shifts that we have experienced to date have been ones that I think are a little bit more on the big earthquake shaking shifts, like going from Pluto in Capricorn to Pluto in Aquarius was a big earthquake shaking shift. Pluto in Capricorn had so much to do with power and power structures. Moving into Aquarius, it's a very long transit, so we're only getting the beginning of it, but we are really starting to see the organization of people. So there's a lot of things that are opening people's eyes for the first time, like breaking them out of complacency. And so then having Neptune moving from Pisces to Aries, and then having Saturn moving from Pisces to Aries. These were the next levels of I just described Saturn and Aries as like cold water on the face. And we're seeing that. I mean, I'm seeing it very drastically in the news. We're seeing people saying, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I voted for. We're seeing people, I saw something the other day where someone was like, maybe this has all been one big psyop, so it's fascinating, right? To watch how people are, reconciling the reality versus their imagination or their delusion. Okay, so now we have Jupiter moving into Cancer on June 9th. This one actually is a little bit softer, is a little bit nicer. However, it is equally transformational. So Jupiter has been in the sign of Gemini. Gemini is about the mind. Gemini is about learning. And so Jupiter magnifies any sign that it's in. So this is a collective thing that we've all been experiencing for the past, year or more, where there has been a lot of confusion, a lot of noise. There's been a lot of chaos. There's been a lot of, just so much information coming at us that it feels like we don't know where to look, right? Like the flood the zone. That is absolutely Jupiter and Gemini, and it will thrive in Jupiter and Gemini because that's what Jupiter does. It floods the zone. It gives you so much data, so much information, so much learning, and it can be beautiful. However, it also can be incredibly chaotic and very stressful for your nervous system because Jupiter magnifying that level of information, whether it's true information or disinformation, it's too much, right? And especially for people who are very sensitive, and most of the people watching this channel are naturally intuitive, naturally sensitive, naturally caring beings. Like, that's why you watch this channel, because you are drawn to my caring Cancerian energy because you have it within yourselves. So Jupiter is now going to be starting June 9th, moving into Cancer. So again, Jupiter is going to magnify the Cancerian energy. So there will be a natural shift. And so what I love about this is, on the high side, I'm going to really break down Cancer energy for you, okay? And when I say what I'm about to say, please understand I'm talking about archetypal energies. I am not talking about your own personal experience of your mother who may have been absent or ill or cruel or not up to the task or sick, right? When I talk about mother, I am talking about Kuan Yin. I am talking about Pachamama. I am talking about this archetypal universal energy of love and kindness and forgiveness and deep, deep connection with the heart and the soul. So the highest expression of motherly love, which again, think of it in terms of Mother Earth, whatever the thing is that will ground you into what I'm trying to talk about, is genuine, caring kindness that is 100% authentic and willing to give its life for another human being. That is the purest expression. Throughout much of history, women giving birth were risking their lives. And so to risk your life so someone else can live is a purely selfless, caring act. And so, the mother, Cancer rules the breast. The mother feeds the child. We're talking about in nature as well, right? We are the sustenance. The Cancerian archetype of the nurturer, the loving, kindest, most nurturing, enveloping energy is going to be magnified. Now, is that all great news? It can be. We have to break it down and recognize that we are all sensitive creatures on some level. We are all hurt creatures on some level. Life is painful. We incarnate in this world to transform, to understand how we have been hurt and how we can surpass and get through that hurt to get to the higher plane of existence, how we can get to a place of understanding ourselves and others with compassion and love. Because at the end of the day, love is all that matters. That is all that matters. So the highest expression of Jupiter in Cancer is a magnification of the fact that love and compassion and understanding and nurturing and forgiveness are all that really truly matter. Now, we are humans, as I said, with a lot of pain and hurt, and not everyone has had the opportunity to heal. So there's a lot of heartbreak in the world right now. I believe that a lot of the manifestation of the pain and suffering we are seeing across the globe is really coming from very wounded people who, instead of opening their hearts and healing and understanding that vulnerability, empathy, and kindness are actually potential superpowers, they've shut that down. They've been taught that that's bad. And they're trying to teach others that that's bad. You've heard, very powerful people saying that empathy is, the worst thing in the world, right? That is messaging that these people were given very young that damaged them greatly. When power is all you care about versus love, when you're taught that money, wealth, power, status, adoration are the things that you should strive for versus authenticity, love, comfort in yourself, self-love. If you were taught that those are the values that will get you ahead in this world, you lean into it. And there's plenty of evidence that in our lifetimes, those are the attributes that have been rewarded. Now, it was only 12 years ago that we had Jupiter in Cancer. So, Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer every 12 years. However, this is unique, in my opinion, because we have Saturn and Neptune also in cardinal signs of Aries. So we are going to have a shift in the way that we view power. And there's less about hierarchical achievements through status, because Pluto is no longer in Capricorn, but in Aquarius, and Saturn in Aries, and Neptune in Aries are a little bit more about finding courage and bravery. And courage and bravery, again, I'm looking at the highest expression. Courage and bravery are what are needed to face vulnerability and heartache and heartbreak and pain. So Cancers are very sensitive. It's taken me a long time to develop somewhat of a thick enough skin to read some of the nasty comments that people put on my channel sometimes. But I have come to a place of recognizing that my sensitivity is a huge gift, not only to others, but to myself. It is my strength. So Jupiter goes into Cancer, and transformation is available when it comes to healing your heart. That is what this is about, is getting back in touch with love. Forgiveness, love, compassion, self-worth, self-love. Love for people that may have harmed you, may have wronged you. Okay? With the Aries energy, mid-June, Jupiter is going to be squaring that Saturn in Aries. That's explosively transformational. So on a collective energy, collectively, we can see people's wounds being activated and potentially them reacting in a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's reactive way, explosive way, kind of like defensive way. So this is kind of, if you are not doing your work, if you're not good with your soul, if you are not well within your soul, this time will shake you up, because it's saying like, you have to see what's really happening. We can't heal ourselves. We can't let spirit in. We can't let our souls be guided to our higher purpose if we are shut down in the ego, if we are ready to blow. We have to get to a place where we recognize that the pain and the suffering and the heartache is part of the journey to move us to a place of seeing ourselves and others more authentically. So Cancer is sensitive, right? So sensitivity must defend itself. So Cancers have a reputation for being very defensive. I've been told I'm very defensive. Don't get defensive. Well, if you are sensitive, you need to have some defenses. Otherwise, you're going to get smushed. Okay? And we've all been out in the world. Sensitivity is not, universally rewarded. We all can't go around with our heart on our sleeve. We have to do it in such a way that is authentic to ourselves. And not everyone has 4 planets in Cancer like I do. So you have to find where Cancer is in your chart. And you know that Jupiter is going to be traveling through that house. What planets will it be touching? That is going to be a gift for you and an opportunity for healing. Now, the collective shadow for Jupiter in Cancer is nationalism, is tribalism, is thinking that I need to protect mine at all costs. This is my country. Get out of my country. You are not one of us. That can be Jupiter in Cancer. But historically, I wrote a piece for the OPA magazine, the Evolving Astrologer, I think it's called. And I did some research on things that have happened in the past when Jupiter has been in Cancer. And one of the ones that I found really interesting was it didn't start in Jupiter in Cancer, but it ended in Jupiter in Cancer. It was McCarthyism. So McCarthyism took place over several years. It was a movement much like the movement that we're dealing with now, where it terrorized people. But it was Jupiter in Cancer when the hearings took place and the senator said, "Have you no decency, sir?" And that was the end. That was the beginning of the end of McCarthyism. That was Jupiter in Cancer. They both were Jupiter in Cancer in some ways, because Jupiter in Cancer is so fearful that the other is going to harm them or hurt them, that they act out of fear. People have been acting out of fear about, we need to close the border. Even if it has not impacted their lives in a negative way, there has been a lot of boogeyman talk. There's been a lot of people talking about gangs and, now how many of us in our lives have been impacted by a immigrant gang member? Not many voters in this country have had first-hand experience with that. How many people have had their jobs stolen by an immigrant? No one I know of. Now, how many people do I know that have had their job stolen or replaced by automation or AI? Okay. So there's a lot of scapegoating that goes on and fear-mongering that is about control. Because if I can control your mind, I can make you frightened. As a human sensitive creature, we want to protect our families. We want to protect our country. And so people that would prey upon that then have the opportunity to get what they want. All this energy moving into Aries now, people are seeing more clearly. People are beginning to see more clearly. And sometimes consequences on the outside need to manifest before people can heal on the inside. And I will tell you that I may never have had any encounter with a gang member from another country, but I've had plenty of encounters with sexual predators and cruel bullies that have impacted the lives of people I love. So, I had a friend of mine, she asked me, well, don't you think it's unfair that, the trans athletes and, really going into this whole thing. And I was like, you know what? The truth of the matter is that has never impacted my life. I've never walked into a bathroom and felt frightened by seeing a trans person. It's just not something. However, I have walked down a street alone at night and had someone harass me, and I felt very threatened and frightened. I have had all sorts of Me Too incidences in my career that then really stifled my career I've had, so when people are talking about protecting women, I'm a little skeptical because the vast majority of rape kits in this country have not been tested, and they could easily be. And even if they have been entered into the database, they've not been cross-referenced. There's all sorts of, and there's all sorts of evidence that people don't really care about the things that many of us do care about, like affordable childcare. That was something we barely could afford childcare when we first had our child. And that's something that is very universal. So the same people who are trying to frighten me about trans athletes or trans people in a bathroom are the same people who are trying to strip away food and care for children. Jupiter in Cancer is not going to like that very much. There's going to be a little bit of putting together the dots, I think, about people saying like, well, if you really truly care about women and children, here are the things we care about. So in the past, when Jupiter's been in Cancer, there have been really powerful women that have stood up and made a difference. So that's something to look forward to. I also did read something the other day that they're talking about, because there's this whole pronatalism movement, and that's very Jupiter in Cancer too, like saying that women need to have babies and the traditional like role for women, that's very Jupiter in Cancer too, I have to be honest with you. But not in the patriarchal, like putting women down sense. It doesn't have to be that way. But as part of this pronatalism movement, there is a bill, I think, in Congress where they're talking about making childbirth free. Because some people have like bills of like $40,000 to give birth, even with insurance. So really holding the insurance companies accountable to make it affordable or free for women to give birth. So that's Jupiter in Cancer. So I think there will be some positive things that come out of this. And I also think if we are on the wrong track, it will be exposed in that way. Okay? So on a collective level, I do see that there will be a ramping up of potentially immigration activities, not for the best, potentially. However, as more and more people are touched by this, I don't know if you saw the story about a town in Missouri that went like 80 plus for dummy, and they are now really sad because one of their own has been put in a detention center for deportation. And she has been a member of the community for over 20 years. She's a mother, she's beloved. And so everyone in this community is very, very much in support of the movement, that they voted for, then now are recognizing and fighting on some level because it wasn't what they thought they were going to get, right? So as the deportations or immigration activity ramps up, I think, which is Jupiter in Cancer, frankly, I do expect an acceleration of that process during this time. However, I also expect more people to realize that that isn't really authentic to their hearts. It's not authentic to their experience. It's not who they are. It's not what they wanted. And so there will be this backlash against that as well as the repercussions come home. So as we all sit with these repercussions, because the repercussions are going to begin this summer. We've all been in this sort of liminal space of, oh, this is what I want, right? Like, this is what I want. This is what's going to happen. Oh, this is what happened. Oh, well, it's going to be okay. Maybe it's not going to be okay. Like, there's been this process, the change, the shift, right? Like, we've all been talking about, like, things are starting to manifest. Once this summer things begin to manifest, it'll become clearer and clearer where we truly want to go. And that's why the McCarthyism example, I think, is so potent, because once it begins to impact you, like your friend has been accused of being a communist or whatever, and then you don't think that's right, you can then suddenly hear it when someone says, "Do you have no decency, sir?" And there is sort of this watershed breaking open. And so as Jupiter moves through Cancer on a collective level, I think we have to be careful of othering people, and we have to recognize that it will happen. And we also have to recognize that it is part of this process. I'm not approving of, I'm just talking about the planetary energy. It's a part of this process of healing, because at the end of the day, things have to seem to manifest in real life in front of people and affect them before they can then actually make a change and have their hearts touched in a way that they then will wake up and take action and be more compassionate toward other people. And so, and I do think that that is available with this Jupiter in Cancer. I do think that Jupiter in Cancer is a time for the collective energy to potentially heal and forgive and to come back together. There's going to be much more common ground. Our country is the United States is a Cancer nation. So as Jupiter goes over these planets, I think there is going to be that activation. So be mindful of that on both sides of what it can mean. In our own personal lives, it is the chance to get back in touch with the most loving, caring, kindest part of yourself that can forgive and do the hard work of healing. So even if you cannot impact what's happening on a collective level, you can see that your own heartbreak, your own pain and suffering is really there to let spirit in to heal you. Often being stripped down to the bone, stripped bare, is when we see who we truly are and what we're here to do and how we can change. Cancer is a cardinal sign. Aries is a cardinal sign. Cardinal energy is about manifestation, bringing things into light and change. This is a very active time, and I do think it's an active time for finding emotional healing and courage. So that is available to all of us, and I, for one, am really looking forward to it. On a personal note, I'll kind of just give you a couple other little things to sort of ground this energy. There was a death in my family 12 years ago that resulted in an inheritance that changed my life. Okay. Allowed me to move from the circumstances I was in to better circumstances. That was Jupiter in Cancer. There was a sacrifice, right? There was a death, there was a pain, there was a sadness, and then there was this gift. I go back to the cycle before that. I met someone that I was deeply, deeply in love with, and it felt like, destiny. And that person had a drinking problem, and it was a very tumultuous, challenging relationship that ended in me deciding that that wasn't what I wanted for my life. And it helped put me on a whole new path of self-esteem and self-worth. And that was where I started really learning to be an astrologer. Okay. So that time in my life, I thought what looked amazing, right? On the surface, meeting the love of your life, and that's what I thought at the time, right? And I think we all have many loves of our lives. Was heartbreaking, and it really shattered my heart. And at the end of that cycle was the most life-changing transit. Now, there were a lot of other things going on, right? But Jupiter in Cancer was one of them. And so you see how life is not a straight line. A death can result in a gift. A love can result in a heartbreak. That can result in a gift. So I think right now we are all being challenged. I'm not going to say that things are going to suddenly get easy. I think we might be really in for it. And I think that being in for it is part of this journey that we're all on together. So for one, I'm really happy about this Jupiter in Cancer because it's a softening. I think it gives us something to anchor into, which is love, which is the thing that matters more than anything else in the world. So I hope that you find the courage to heal, forgive, find your true authentic self and appreciate it, because that's what this is all about. Nurturing not only your loved ones, but nurturing that inner child, the person that, was wounded and hurt when you were little. Or your ancestors for that matter. Do some ancestry work during this time. I know I'm going to. This is a big time for discovering where these patterns in our lives have come from, where the pain has come from generations before us. Jupiter in Cancer is like, yep, time to heal that generational pain. So that's what I think is going on right now. And we're going to have this for a year. So let's enjoy and celebrate this Jupiter in Cancer together. Thank you for being here with me. As always, there's a reason and a season for it all. And the cosmos is conspiring to help you. And thank Pachamama. Thank Kuan Yin. Thank all the mothers. Thank you.